Welcome to this special edition of the Speaker Series from the Global and National Security Institute at the University of South Florida. I'm John Licato, professor in the Computer Science and Engineering Department at the University of South Florida and founder and director of the Advancing Machine and Human Reasoning Lab here at USF. I'm excited to be guest hosting this episode of the GNSI Speaker Series, especially in light of the guests that we have today. I'm pleased to announce my colleague, Norma Alcantar, the Associate Dean for Research at the Department of Chemical, Biological, and Materials Engineering at College of Engineering here at USF. Hi, Norma.
Hi, John. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. And I'm also pleased to introduce a professor visiting from Paris, France, Dr. Nicolas Sabouret, the director of the Graduate School of Computer Science at the University of Paris-Saclay. Hi, Nick.
Hi, nice meeting you.
So in the area of national security, one major focus for all of us is cybersecurity. And both of your universities are very passionate about this. So maybe we can start by just sort of providing overviews of, what each university is doing in this area. So Norma, maybe you could start us off telling us about USF and its work in cybersecurity.
Yes, so thanks, John. I wanted to take this opportunity to tell everyone there that the University of South Florida takes cybersecurity very seriously. We are offering right now a bachelor's in science in cybersecurity. This is a major that focuses on technology, people, information, systems, and processes. And our graduates, when they finish, they are placed in the market for about 95,000. So their offers for jobs are very competitive. We're the second in the state that offers these bachelor's. And we also have master's and PhD programs on cybersecurity that are very attractive. Our faculty is very talented. They are in computer hardware and issues related to behavior, they are skilled in programming and operating systems, and we're going to hear more about it. The college was, it's 60 years since we started in the College of Engineering, and we have come to a really steep rise, and this is one of our best programs that we can offer out of the 11 programs that we have in the college.
Thanks, Norma. Yeah, we were really excited about this new cybersecurity program as well. Dr. Sabouret, maybe you could tell us about your university and its work in cybersecurity?
Yes, so thank you. I'm from University Paris-Saclay, which is one of the largest universities in France, but I must say I'm very impressed by the cybersecurity program you have here in USF. What we have we don't have a specific bachelor on cybersecurity, but we have two programs, one which is more what you would call a master program here, so for students who want to stop after 2 years and then go to the industry, which is on cybersecurity for networks, with a very strong connection with cybersecurity companies in France. And we have a PhD program, which is the beginning of a PhD track, although half of the students go to the industry after that and don't continue with the PhD. But so a PhD program, a research-oriented program in cryptography, which is also very famous in France and which prepares students for all the theoretical and applied aspects of cryptography.
So that's really interesting, Nick, because I think that's one of the ways we can start a partnership, right? The University of South Florida also offers programs that are on big data analytics and also masters in cybersecurity. So I can see that to be a synergy between our two universities, and maybe coming also for an internship at the BS program. I think that we can start the conversation that way.
Yeah, and I think that'd be a really great way to, just get students different perspectives. They can see, if they spend some time in Paris, have some of your students spend some time here in Florida, they can see what the different, countries are interested in, different approaches and different ways of thinking about how to approach cybersecurity, right? Are there any other ways that you guys can think of how, institutions from different countries, different universities can work together to improve cybersecurity?
My opinion is that on such topic, you need strong international cooperation between the countries. And we have researchers who do a lot of theoretical work on cybersecurity and also program security, computer science security and that sort of questions. And we can build collaboration between researchers too, so that they prepare the future of what cybersecurity is going to be in the context of quantum computing and all the questions that are going to rise very soon, large language models and that sort of questions.
Yeah.
Well, I think focusing on technology, people, information systems, and it actually kind of assure that cyber operations are more secure, right? That I think is in tandem, AI, IT, all of these different parts of what computing science is to make it more secure, right? And that's what cybersecurity is based on, making our communications secure and making our communications truthful to what the message is going to be.
Yeah, within cybersecurity, there's a lot of, it's one of those fields where there are so many different expertise from different departments that have to come in and work together, right? And of course, each of us has our own, areas that we're particularly interested in. Mine's is, NLP and cognitive modeling of human reasoning. And I know that you've done some work in effective computing as well, right? So maybe you could tell us about what effective computing actually is.
Okay, effective computing is the branch of AI and computer science in general who tries to analyze, simulate, and express and reason about emotions, social relations, all sorts of affective things that are important to humans. And it's an important question because we are used to, we are not only used, but we need those affective aspects in communication in our daily life. And since we are more and more interacting with computers and systems, we need the computers and systems to be able to adapt to this social aspect of our behavior.
That's so interesting, right? How engineering builds that technical foundation, but at the same time, you need all of these other sciences to come together, really to make the background of cybersecurity, right? Or the backbone or the frame that that new scientific method is going to be based on.
It's definitely not something that can be ignored in engineering, especially as computers that are more and more human-like become more closely integrated with teams, right? We can't ignore the role that emotional connection and the ability to recognize emotions will play in those sorts of systems, right? Have you done any work in thinking about how effective computing plays a role in cybersecurity or national security?
I have not personally worked on that topic, but I know that I'm pretty sure that emotion will play a role, especially since a lot of questions we have now regarding security is about misinformation and how people react to the information they can see on the internet, which most of it now can be content generated and not actual information. And we know that affects play a major role in the interpretation of information. So I think it's a question that computer needs to be able to analyze, to understand the content and how they interfere with human reasoning, thinking, and then with the security.
Yeah. So we could maybe use the study of effective computing to maybe anticipate how people will react emotionally to certain content and information.
Exactly. I think that could be a nice research topic,
Yeah. How much of that is already going on, do you think?
I know for sure that lots of people are already working on that questions. And what is interesting, as Norma just said, is that it requires skills from not only engineering and computer science, but also human science and social science. And I know there are lots of work on these questions, but I'm not working on that topic especially. I'm more about human-computer interaction and emotions in human-computer interactions.
Okay. So this would be mostly like interface design or
Exactly.
robotics?
Designing virtual agents that behave and look like human beings, and try to interact as naturally as we humans do.
Yeah, yeah.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you think at some point people can learn how to start a relationship just by listening to a computer, or like can we train humans in relationships through computing?
Yeah,
Right. That's
I'm pretty sure we can. I
Yeah.
think we can. One reason is that it's much easier for us to train with a computer than to train with real persons. So I think for people who have difficulties, having virtual humans that behave naturally can be a support. And we have very interesting results in applied domains such as job interviewing. We know that kids who have difficulties with job interviews, when they train with a computer that behaves like a real recruiter, you obtain very good results at the end.
Yeah. So it just plays the role of a recruiter and goes through a mock interview,
Exactly,
that sort of
exactly.
thing. Yeah. Yeah, I think I really like the idea of using AI to help people improve these sorts of, just reasoning abilities. And, it's been a major focus of my lab. And, we got a faculty in our department, for example, Dr. Ryan Baten, who tries to use, AI and other technologies to help develop soft skills, right? So you mentioned interviewing, but also we talked recently about negotiation skills, right? And maybe relationship skills, right?
well, that would be great. Sign me in. Just kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll buy it for my husband. Just kidding.
Yeah, I think what's important to note about this kind of work, though, is we absolutely need to have close collaboration with the psychologists because I just read an article, I forgot what the source was, but it was talking about how there's an explosion of new apps that are supposed to be, good at using AI for a psychologist or something like that, right? But because they don't ground it in, real science of therapy, it ends up where it could actually be more harmful than making them worse at relationships. And yeah, so I think we need to really advocate for involvement of very rigorous scientific methods in this sort of work.
I totally agree. In my team, we have half computer scientists and half psychologists working together on a daily basis to work on those questions. And I think it would be a great mistake to have only computer scientists study this without a human science expertise.
Yeah. How do you navigate that? Because, whenever I'm in that kind of work and we have to, the students that have to do that kind of work almost feel like they have to earn 2 PhDs at once, right? Because they got to learn the psychology. So how do you navigate that problem?
Well, we try to navigate as we can, because it's true that it requires learning two domains that are so different, especially because psychology in science is an experimental science, whereas computer science is more theoretical science in which we build models and do less experiments. And combining the two requires really two different expertise, one more in mathematics and one more in statistical approaches. So, we try to, and students have difficulties, but they also are very happy to do this because it broadens their perspective of science. They study different domains, they understand things they're not used to. Those who come from human science discover what the question of computation can mean, and those coming from computer science discover what human being is about and how to integrate this knowledge into computer system is really a nice and interesting challenge.
Yeah, I agree completely. And even just having them, even if the computer scientists students don't become experts in psychology, just having exposure to it, right, helps them, and vice versa, right? Having the psychology students just exposed to people with expertise in AI and computer science just helps broaden their experience, right? And I think that same collaboration model applies to universities from different countries as well, right? Just if we have our students just work together, right? They can see what it's like to work with people with different perspectives, maybe different backgrounds growing up, right? And
I think the cultural aspect is very important. The major that is here offered at USF in cybersecurity it also has some aspects of policy and human factors, risk management, ethics, and the impacts on society. So I think students get a well-rounded perspective of what cybersecurity could be, and it aligns on what is needed, right? That's the collaboration with other majors, electrical engineers, industrial engineers, but psychologists, social scientists. I think that's so important on moving the needle forward on this topic that is so it's so grounded right now in our society, and we need to take on what the problem and the challenge is, and just one major is not gonna be the solution, but having that collaboration and the partnership, I think that's very it's critical.
Yeah, critical. Yeah.
That's something I find very interesting in the US system with this major approach you have. In France, students who want to study cybersecurity, for example, will have to do a full course in mathematics or in computer science, and they won't have many courses on ethics or other domains, such as the one you mentioned, and they will discover that after the bachelor when they enter the cybersecurity course. And maybe even in the cybersecurity course, they still focus mathematics and computer science, and they will do this during the PhD. So I find it very interesting that you expose your students very soon to those questions, which are, to me, of a high importance in this domain of security.
Yeah, I remember GNSI, the Global National Security Institute, had a whole summit just on ethics, right, and AI. So I think that was very interesting to see the whole perspective on defense and the ethics that it can be applied when you deploy a software to certain part of the population, right? And so I think students need to be aware of that aspect.
Yeah,
It's true.
I think, that's really important for ethics education as well. So I teach we have an ethics course that we require all our computer science students to take in their final semester in the program. I'm teaching that this semester as well. And I've tried to look at the literature on, what actually works in ethics education, right? And I think that the current consensus is that, basically just telling them ethical principles is good. It's a start, but it's not enough, right? What seems to work to actually affect behavior is giving them exposure to real world scenarios where they have to see, okay, here's the policy considerations I have to deal with. Here's the legal considerations. Here's what a real moral dilemma where there's no good option, looks like. Are there any ways that we could work together with our institutions to kind of give students more exposure to that sort of thing? Real problems that they can deal with and think about.
Yeah, I think involving industry and involving policymakers and the real offices like federal government that is interested on getting a good workforce developed. I think that's the start, right? Yeah. What are the issues, and how can we train the students to be prepared to face on any kind of problems that they will have in the future? It was interesting, Nick, you mentioned a little bit on how you work with industry as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, what we do, we have students who prepare their master course half time in the industry and half time at the school. So they do not only learn techniques from the professors, but they also apply them directly in the company. And they know from the very beginning of their course that the theory they're seeing at the university is going to be applied in concrete cases. So that's a very good point, I believe, to have students discover actually what cybersecurity is about in real life, not only in theory. But also, Norma, you mentioned the different aspects of ethical courses and ethical approaches that you have here. And I think also something that can be mentioned is that students moving abroad for one semester could be a good opportunity for them to discover new questions and new views of cybersecurity, different from the one they have in their own country.
Yeah, I think we should work on that. It's
Yeah,
number one on my list now. So
Yeah, I don't think our students would be opposed to, being required to spend a semester in Paris. I think that'd be an easy sell.
yeah, here we have the capstone design in the engineering system, where the students are exposed to a real problem and then they have to solve that problem. And in cybersecurity, I believe they do have some connections with companies, local companies or other companies that approach the college to have these small but relevant projects that they want students to work on. And that's our way to train the students in that regard.
All right, so moving back to the topic of cybersecurity, I think, as we mentioned earlier, cybersecurity is this very cross-disciplinary thing that requires a lot of ways of thinking about it and, different perspectives from different departments. Does your university do any work on, just the overall theory of cybersecurity in general?
Yeah, what is very well developed in France is there is a research group on cybersecurity which focus mostly on using formal models for all aspects of cybersecurity, so computer security, but also security in general. And there are outside of Paris-Saclay, inside Paris-Saclay and outside of Paris-Saclay, we have specific campus and specific programs to train students to those aspects of theoretical computer science for cybersecurity.
Now, how does that training work? Is it just a series of courses that they go through?
It's a series of courses, yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess we have something similar, right? 'Cause we have the undergraduate cybersecurity program, and I think it'd be really nice to see if we could get those students communicating with each other.
I think that would be very nice, yeah.
Yeah, working on
You
similar
have like
problems.
a virtual seminar series or
We could.
faculty that can also start some kind of research collaborations with them, and then the students to be connected with other students. I think that will make it even stronger on how to partner in education and in the scientific development of cybersecurity. I think that would be an ideal aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great. And how does that compare to what USF is doing about cybersecurity education?
Well, I think as Dean Bishop mentioned it in his previous interview by WSF, the college was established in 1964 and it has 56 among all public universities in graduate education. I think the educators, instructors, faculty are dedicated to cybersecurity and to data management, especially in computer science and engineering. As I mentioned before, we have these bachelor in science in cybersecurity, which is a new program that can assure the students really acquire a background in cybersecurity and how to relate that and impact society, right? So we are very interested on students that will have a background not just in the technical aspects, which are very strong in the college, but also a background on how the human factor can be introduced in their studies. There is the master's in cybersecurity, which is not just in computer science and engineering, but also with electrical engineering and industrial engineering, and also with other colleges at USF. So I think that compared to what is happening in Paris, we have the college working with other colleges as well with other departments within the college to get the students' education more broadly.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for collaboration. I want to ask a broad question now, more of a, maybe on the philosophical or speculation side. So we talked about effective computing and the possibility of, AI being able to recognize emotions and maybe even generate emotions, right? Elicit emotional responses. And there's a lot of contemporary debate on whether computers can ever be truly intelligent, conscious, intentional agents, all these sorts of things, right? But I think that we're going to reach a point, whether it's sooner or later, where a lot of those questions won't matter. Some of the AI that we're going to have to deal with is going to be so close to what we understand to be genuine emotional states, or emotional appearances, that it's going to be very difficult to impossible to tell the difference between something that actually is a genuine friend of mine or is someone that I'm in a relationship with, for example, right? So my question to both of you is, are we ready for this sort of thing, right? Societally, educationally, security, with respect to security, right?
Okay, I agree with you that at some point the question is not whether or not computer science can be genuinely conscious or intelligent or whatsoever, but rather how we interpret the relation we have with those systems. And that's to me, that's a very important topic. I must insist on the fact that computer science is about computation. And what we do is simulation of emotions. Computers don't feel emotions. In the same way that in large language models, computers don't understand the language. They produce words through computation, but they don't understand what they produce. There is no genuine intelligence in this. It's just computation. Still, at some point, you can't tell the difference for us. And as you say, the question is not whether or not they're intelligent, but whether or not we're going to use these systems in the right way for the national security or for the common good. So I think that's the most important question. So we need to lower our expectations towards those systems and just keep in mind that they are tools for the human beings and understand how we can use these wonderful tools, because it's really wonderful to be able to simulate language, simulate emotions, elicit emotions, and how can we use it for the global benefit of the society.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's so. Nick is an expert in AI. I don't know if you know, but he has 3 books already that relate to artificial intelligence. So it's really hard to top that answer. Mm-hmm. But as a scientist, I will say cybersecurity can be used to protect us, and machines are really good at it, but they're really good at attacking us as well. So we have to find that balance where the human interaction will still be the one that can't relate if there's an attack, a real attack, or if it can be actually the fair or the tear in that regard. And I think machines don't have that ability, humans do.
Yeah. But what about from a national security perspective? Let's say that tomorrow someone comes up with that one technological advance that makes it so we can't tell the difference anymore between human and artificial intelligence with respect to cognitive capabilities or emotion or any of those sorts of things. I mean, are we ready as a society to deal with that?
Let me ask you this, John. Can we trick that new tool, even if it's perfect? Because sometimes you can trick humans, right, into giving information, and that's how cybersecurity actually became necessary. But can we then trick also that tool that we created that is so good into telling us that it's not real?
Yeah.
That's, to me, that would be can we find how to trick?
Yeah, there are lots of research on that question on how to make sure that artificial systems can never, can no longer pretend to be humans, but that we can trick them into telling us that they're producing artificial content.
Yeah. Yeah, but that gap I think is narrowing to a point where I don't know if it's going to be meaningful anymore. So we're already seeing this with images, right? Generated images, very difficult to. I mean, there are some tells, like some of the lower end image generation systems. You look at the fingers, right, and you can see he's usually pretty bad at that. But I mean, someone that knows what they're doing with image generation can really make convincing, realistic images.
Yes, but I'm quite optimistic about that because, as you know, all these algorithms are based on machine learning, and there is one very famous problem in machine learning, which is overlearning. When you train on your own data, the performance of the system begins to fall down to a critical point where it's no longer good at all. So the producers of those fake images will need to tag the fake images so that they don't learn with the fake images. Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting research question on how to deal with all these fake images you don't want to have in the corpus for training your system.
Yeah, we're seeing that in natural language processing as well, where, a lot of times when, the data that we get to train these language models is stuff that's scraped from the internet. But now we're seeing that a lot of the internet content is AI generated. So now it's starting to kind of feed on itself. And NLP researchers are trying to figure out how to navigate this problem.
Exactly.
I think that's only going to get worse, though, because we're getting more and more. I mean, have you searched for a recipe recently on the internet? And, you don't get just the recipe. You get this long AI generated, description of the story behind it. And that sort of thing is going to become more and more common as it becomes easier to generate text. Yeah. But, well, there are reasons to be optimistic as well. And one of them is that there is a lot of opportunity for students from different universities in different countries to work together. And hopefully that's what we found a way to start facilitating here. And that's going to wrap up this special episode of the GNSI Speaker Series. I'm John Licato, Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of South Florida. It's been my pleasure to have as our guest today Dr. Norma Alcantar, the Associate Dean of Research for the College of Engineering, and Dr. Nicolas Sabouret, Director of the Graduate School of Computer Science at the University of Paris-Saclay. Thank you both today for a very insightful and interesting conversation.
Thank you,
Thanks, John.
And thank you all for watching this special episode of the GNSI Speaker Series.